Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer DeWitt, and as chair of the Learning Society Executive Committee, it is my pleasure to virtually welcome you this evening to our salon, highlighting a few of Charlotte's initiatives and attractions that reflect our region's forward-looking approach to environmental stewardship, conservation, and opportunities for economic development. We have an impressive panel who will discuss how our city is evolving and being reshaped for the next decade and beyond. Before I turn our conversation over to our moderator, Al Austin, I'd like to thank the members of the Learning Society whose contributions make this conversation possible, and welcome to all of our guests with us tonight. I hope you will consider joining us in person on April 20th when the Learning Society will host Dr. Mark Hyman, New York Times bestselling author, and Carla Hall, cookbook author, former Top Chef, and food equity advocate, for a conversation around the overarching inequalities in our food system when it comes to the demographics of race, location, affluence, and economics. Tickets can be purchased online at carolinatix.org. And now I am very pleased to introduce you to Al Austin, Senior Project Manager, Community Affairs with Corning, Inc. In this role, Al is responsible for supporting the strategy, creation, and execution of local community affairs with a focus on racial equity. He is also a former Charlotte City Councilman representing Council District 2, which covers Uptown, the North Side, and Northwest Charlotte. Al's full bio and the bios of all of our panels can be found by clicking the link to the electronic program that was in the email invitation. And now I would like to welcome Al Austin. Over to you, Al.
Well, good evening, and thank you, Jennifer. I'm pleased to be here with you and our esteemed panelists and our viewing audience. This evening, our theme is Jewels in the Queen City's Crown, Outdoor Amenities, Environmental Resources, and Good Stewardship that makes Charlotte a leading city. Like most people around the globe, you and I have spent a considerable amount of time sheltered in place and indoors over the last 2 years due to the pandemic. These unprecedented times have changed the way we live, work, and play, and how we educate our children. We've redefined binge watching television for hours as okay and normal. We have created new phrases like my pandemic way, our new normal, and you're on mute have been infused into our daily conversations in some way. The impact of this new normal has caused many of us to seek avenues to lessen our stress and find new ways to connect back to nature. Thankfully, Charlotte and this region have been nationally recognized for our unique outdoor amenities and resources by way of parks, trails, and centers that contribute to our well-being and build a healthy spirit, mind, and body. This evening, we'll discuss with our esteemed panelists these questions and more. What is the role of environmental stewardship, sustainability, and why it matters for our region and residents? How do we ensure inclusivity, opportunity, and promoting health and wellness in outdoor spaces for all? How can residents benefit more and take advantage of many of the resources that we have? And what future trends or new innovations are on the horizons that will shape how we create communities? Just a quick reminder, we've allotted time at 7:15 for audience questions and answers. If you have a question, please submit them to learningsociety@queens.edu. Again, that's learningsociety@queens.edu. The production team will forward those to me. So I'm pleased to introduce our panelists, and you'll find again their bios in the link that you were sent with the invitation. First, we have Chris Hunter, Superintendent of Park Operations at Mecklenburg County Park and Recreations. We have Bart Landes, Executive Director, Catawba Lands Conservancy and the Carolina Thread Trail. And Lisa Focus, I think she got back with us, Stewardship Director of Crescent Communities. And then unfortunately, Jim Warren couldn't be with us this evening because he had a conflict. However, we have Sherry Bellfield. She is the Director of Communications and Marketing at Johnson C. Smith University and serves on the board of directors for the Carolina Raptor Center. She is also chair of the board's advancement committee, and Sherry is a huge advocate for environmental justice, particularly equitable access to nature and outdoor recreation. Sherry, thank you for stepping in.
Thank you.
Also, thank you to all of our panelists for being here this evening. And so let's get started a little bit with an opening question. And I do believe we have a few visuals that we can show our audience. So I'm going to read the question, and then I'll kind of guide our panel who should come next. So how does your resource or amenity make Charlotte and our region better? And I think we're going to start with Chris, and we may have some visuals out there I believe the team's working on.
Well, thank you for that question, Al. I think obviously Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation has so much to offer this community as it relates to facilities. We have, I think a lot of people, focus on what they're interested in, whether it be sports, whether it be outdoors. There's so much in between that. I could just run down the list. We operate, more than 230 facilities throughout Mecklenburg County, more than 21,000 acres of parkland. So I think we've all seen over the last 18 to 20 months the importance of outdoor space and what that is, means to us. I think we all have probably taken that for granted prior to the pandemic, but when you couldn't go anywhere, you could go to a park and find a lot of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I look forward to speaking with you this evening, and I want to definitely hear at some point about this Eastway Regional Recreation Center. I'm sure it's very unique. And next up, we have Bart Landes.
Thanks, Al. Catawba Lands Conservancy goes after these four things you see before you: clean water, wildlife, connections to nature, and local farms. And we do that in multiple ways, but mostly by preserving green space that can be accessible to all. And that provides the capacity for us to have a better quality of life, better health, an opportunity to be outdoors and have recreation, and also preserving our natural heritage. The Piedmont of North Carolina has been heavily amended by both farming and industry, and this slide shows you just a little bit of what that can mean for our water, but also for our air and for our green space. So we do everything we can to preserve that green space and provide a better quality of life for everyone.
Great. Thank you so much, Bart. I definitely want to hear about how all of this begun and kind of where you are at this point with what 250 miles that you're supposed to have.
The trail is now 400 miles.
It's 400 miles. Awesome. Okay. Well, good. Next up, and I believe she's back, is Lisa Fotis. Are you back?
I am.
Thank you.
Just as a heads up, I am in my office and we had a fire alarm just before we began, so my apologies for that.
No worries.
But we are all safe and sound here. So again, I'm with Crescent Communities, and community engagement is super important to Crescent. As you can see some of our initiatives around the Charlotte region in the images on the screen. And of course, at face value, Crescent Communities is a real estate developer. So we're definitely shaping the landscape of Charlotte through the communities that we build. We're very intentional about the developments from novel Stonewall Station, now the Frances and Ally Charlotte Center, shaping the Stonewall Corridor, which is soon to be renamed, of course, to partnering with Asana to redevelop Atherton Mill with the addition of novel Atherton. And probably most importantly, we truly have an opportunity to shape the future of Charlotte through our approach to development with the River District, a huge master plan community on the west side of the city with a very forward-facing sustainability message. I'm sure I'll have an opportunity to touch on that in a little bit. But of course, with your panelists, one of these things is not like the other, right? As far as the panelists are concerned, developers generally don't have a reputation for being innovative in terms of environmental sustainability, but we believe it's our responsibility to challenge that, to build beautiful communities that still respect the environment, and to build community and make it easy for people to get outside and to be healthy, like giving them opportunities to have access to green space and trails. So, for us, it's not just about sustainability specifically, but stewardship. So environmental stewardship and stewardship of the communities that we create. Thanks.
Great, Lisa. And I'm glad that you're safe, and I'm glad you're back with us. And I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about the River District. I was on council when we were looking at zoning and those types of things. So I look forward to hearing a little bit more about it. And last but not least, we have Sherry Bellfield, the Raptor Center. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, Al. So at the Raptor Center, our purpose is to ignite imagination and to inspire engagement with the natural world. And we do that mostly through the rehabilitation of raptors, also known as birds of prey. We also have other birds at the center in addition to raptors, but that is what we specialize in. These are some wonderful, magnificent, majestic birds that really bring you up close and personal with wildlife. In addition, we are an environmental education organization, as well as an organization that advocates for and participates in environmental stewardship and conservation. And so we're kind of like a do-it-all organization that brings together all the things that our partners here are talking about to make sure that everyone has access to and can engage with nature.
That's wonderful. I've had the opportunity to come out to the Raptor Center as well as the new Quest Center. So looking forward to you talking a little bit more about that. So our first question I want to direct to, our next question I want to direct to Sherry and Bart. How are your programs ensuring access for all members of our community? How are you being inclusive? I'll point at Sherry. I'll let you go first.
Ladies first, we're going to go with that one. Okay. So at a Raptor Center, one of the things that we do have is sometimes we have an access issue because we are located in Huntersville. It's straight down Beatties Ford Road, but it is in Huntersville and we're not on the bus line. And so one of the things that we make sure that we do is that we have inclusive programs, inclusive programming to inspire people and make people want to come. But also we take the birds to the community. So we make it a point to be at community festivals, community events, and all parts of our community to make sure that all of our students, we go to schools, have the opportunity to see these wonderful birds. We just got an Andean condor, which is the largest raptor in the world. We worked very closely with the Latino Hispanic media in Charlotte to make sure that everyone knew about that. We did a Spanish language video that we put up on our website because it's a bird that is very important to people who come from South American countries and cultures. We've recently acquired an African fish eagle. And so there's some things that we're getting ready to do with that. And for Women's History Month, we're going to be doing a program about Harriet Tubman, who was the original naturalist, and how she used nature, particularly people don't know the sound of the barred owl, to guide her along the Underground Railroad. So we're doing it through programming and through taking our programs to the community when the community can't come to us.
Well, also thank you for that wonderful bit of Black history. That was good. Bart.
Thank you, Al. And I'm particularly happy to answer this question. 14 years ago, the board of the Catawba Lands Conservancy got concerned about access because many of our preserves are not open to the public. They are often very sensitive habitat and can't be open to large numbers of people. And that is why the Carolina Thread Trail was birthed. Its purpose is to get everybody out, connected to nature. That's our tagline. Conserving land and connecting lives to nature. And as Al noted, there's a good bit of that trail already built, 400 miles. There's 1,600 mile network yet to be finished. But in addition to the trails, which are open to all, we also do outreach efforts with our programs. And that includes both volunteers who come and help work on our preserves and trails, but also programs where folks go with a naturalist out into either a preserve or a trail and learn about the things they see along the way there. And we found that to be really, really important.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Bart, just quickly, how did all of this begun with the initiative to build this 400 miles of trails?
14 years ago, the board decided that they needed to have more access to nature for all of the folks in our whole region, 15 counties. And established an idea, just a concept, that there would be 500 miles of trails that connected 15 counties. But people got so excited about it that as they talked about it, they said, no, we want more. And so then eventually there was a 1,600-mile map of trails, and now 400 of those miles have been built and 200 more to come in the next 5 years.
Well, that's impressive. That's impressive. Let me move on a little bit to Lisa. And she brings a very unique perspective to our conversation tonight. Lisa, as a developer, why is stewardship a core part of your business, and how are you executing on this philosophy? And then educate us a little bit about the River District.
I'd be happy to touch on the River District, but really just as far as background in terms of stewardship in Crescent, I would say that the company has had a long-standing commitment to stewardship. While this is the 6th year that we'll be publishing a report on stewardship, it's been a part of the mission since Crescent was a part of Duke Energy and really the stewards of the landholding division. But for us, it really goes beyond environmental sustainability. Stewardship includes a commitment to 4 pillars of stewardship. It's environment, of course, community, wellness, and resiliency. So environmental sustainability is very important because, of course, as a developer, we build buildings, and buildings account for more than 40% of global greenhouse gas emissions. That's huge. So we understand that we as developers have a responsibility to do better. We use certifications as a baseline for this, but it's really about preserving natural spaces around our buildings as well as making them as efficient as possible. In terms of wellness, like with the environment, we recognize that the way a space is designed and built and operated really has a huge impact on the health and well-being of the occupants of the building. I think COVID especially underscored the fact that the built environment can negatively or positively impact health and well-being. In terms of community engagement, we encourage our leaders to serve the community through nonprofit boards. We have a charitable matching contribution opportunity. So we encourage our colleagues to get involved with the community, and we support that. And on top of that, we're very intentional around the volunteer opportunities that we plan. I have the best job in the company because I get to engage with organizations like the ones on the call today to plan events for getting our colleagues outdoors and supporting the environment and the community. On top of that, we also have a volunteer-led and very intentional diversity, equity, and inclusion task force focused on building diversity and belonging in the real estate community broadly. So that's how we approach this in terms of our pillars. But Al, to your point about the River District, that's really one project that I think embodies everything that stewardship means. This started with the zoning that you were familiar with, Al. We have made a lot of commitments in terms of environmental sustainability, but I feel like we're really taking it to the next level. So for anyone who's not familiar, the River District is a 1,400-acre master planned community on the west side of Charlotte. We're preserving more than 500 acres of green space. There are trails throughout the community. We'll have a 2-acre working farm, a riverfront park, as well as walkable mixed uses, including office, residential, and retail. We've been partnering with the city, the county, Chris's team at Parks and Rec, Duke Energy, you name it. And importantly, we're also partnering with the nonprofit community locally to integrate the principles that we're talking about today. Catawba Lands Conservancy and the Thread Trail, the Catawba Riverkeeper, Trees Charlotte, Clean Air North Carolina, and of course, preserving natural habitats as well. So to guide this work now, we're focusing on a framework called One Planet Living, and it's totally worth looking into and looking up. One Planet Living includes 10 principles for sustainable development, and we're finalizing an action plan that hits on each of these 10 elements. And it's everything from health and happiness, equity and local economy, affordability, land and nature, and zero waste and net zero energy. It's a lot to think about, really, but it's very important since we're developing this community that's really a city within the city, and it's going to take a long time to develop. This is really kind of the city of the future. It's exciting to see all of these commitments starting to come to life as we're finally putting shovels in the ground right now.
That's awesome. That's great. Thank you so much. And I want to make sure I get in enough time for all our presenters as well. Chris, Park and Rec, talk us a little bit about MEC Playbook and how will that benefit our residents? And thank you again for being here this evening.
Sure, my pleasure, Al. So MEC Playbook is a jazzy name for our 10-year comprehensive master plan. The county basically updated our previous master plan 5 years ago, but it was time for a new master plan. So over the last 18 months, we've been working with consultants to go out and get into our community to find out, to help us build the roadmap of how our park system will evolve over the next 10 years. It's more of a strategic plan versus an action plan. You have to keep in mind that, as we progress through, living every day, our elected leadership as well as our executive leadership teams have to make decisions based on where we are with the economy and things such as that. But basically, the MEC Playbook helps us understand where we should be building, the type things that folks want to see. So it's our roadmap of how we operate here in Park and Recreation.
Let's talk a little bit about how you work with elected officials and communities. I know when I was on council, people came to me, which wrong government body for Parks and Rec, but they wanted different types of things in their community. How do you balance, limited dollars with the greater needs of the community and the desires of people to want these amenities near them?
Sure, and it's not anything that's new to us that people don't distinguish the difference between the county and the city. Sure. I don't know that most people realize that here in Mecklenburg County, the largest parks department is Mecklenburg County. There is not a City of Charlotte Park and Recreation Department. Those two agencies merged almost 30 years ago. But to answer your question, our elected officials, that's why the MEC Playbook is so important. So that when people come to their elected officials that, want things, they want something in their community, we have a guide that helps us, keep a focus, helps our elected officials and our leadership teams keep focus on how we ought to be building, what we ought to be building, what we ought to be renovating. But we are very heavily community involved. Anything that we build, when it gets around to the point where we start to plan for a project, community engagement is high. We have at least 2 or 3 community sessions prior to any plans being made to hear from the community, to hear from them what they would like to see in their communities. Now, obviously, everybody wants a pool, right? So, you can't put a swimming pool everywhere. So we take them through the process. We help understand what we can afford, what, the land can receive. So, we work very closely with our elected officials as it relates to projects, but again, we're really heavily guided by that MEC Playbook.
Gotcha. Talk to me a little bit about the Eastway Regional Recreation Center. I know that's unique and it's the first regional. Talk to us a little bit about that and what do we see?
Sure. So obviously right now, for anybody who doesn't know what Eastway Recreation Center is, over the past 30 plus years, Mecklenburg County has built what we call traditional recreation centers. 25, 30, 40,000 square feet facilities that had, a gymnasium, some club rooms, and things like that. Eastway Recreation Center is a behemoth. It is a large, I think, if I'm not mistaken, over 150,000 square feet in a building. Consider a YMCA campus. A YMCA campus typically has multiple acres, multiple amenities inside of one facility. Eastway Recreation Center is that for us in Mecklenburg County. Actually, Eastway is open. Soon following will be the Northern Recreation Center, which will be located in the town of Cornelius. So Big Sister will be popping up in the north here in the next several months.
That is awesome. Look forward to that. I've yet to go out there, but I'm looking forward to it. As we bring everybody back on camera, Sherry, I know that you and Chris probably kind of work towards many different projects at the Quest Center and the Raptor Center. Talk to me a little bit about the Quest Center and what is that all about? I figured I've been there and I was enthralled with it. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Quest is awesome. It is a joint facility between Carolina Raptor Center and Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation. It is a beautiful 13 6,000 square foot facility that's based around the theme of water. There's a 6,000 gallon aquarium in there. And what that aquarium shows you is we're right on Mountain Island Lake, and it shows you the community that was there, what it looks like when that lake was just, of course, man-made and it was done. But one of the reasons that the exhibit in Quest is all about water is we are right there at Latta Nature Preserve, which is, of course, the largest preserve in Mecklenburg County. But the unique thing about it is that it is on Mountain Island Lake. And so Mountain Island Lake is where we get our drinking water. And so to have this center dedicated to water, there's public art there that is all about water. So this full center revolves around water. And now the Raptor Center will be building and moving our trail up to Quest. So it is a beautiful place. I have to tell you, Al, during the pandemic, when we were doing the work from home and you come to work a few days and then you could work from home a few days, there were some times that I put our executive director, Jim Warren, like out of his office and said, I need to work from your office, because not only is Quest a beautiful center, but it is right there in nature. And I can tell you that just going into his office and looking out that window and doing my work from there completely changed everything. And so it was just another example of how all those things that we're talking about really do lead to the health benefits of nature, access to nature, and just being able to look outdoors. So we want everyone to please come to Quest because it is an amazing place.
No worries, no worries. Give us a sense of, when you go out to family events on the weekend now, if you go to a movie, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. What kind of price range are we looking up at Quest and the Raptor Center?
It is very affordable. Like, I think you can get a family pass for less than $100 a year. And so we don't do memberships anymore. It's just kind of like this pass so that the family can come. It is definitely a family activity. You can come to Raptor Center and see the birds, and then you can go walk a trail. Latta Preserve maintains some endangered plants that are there. You can go out and paddleboard right on Mountain Island Lake, which I did for the first time this year. And so it is really a wonderful place. And so we would like for you to come and see it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Bart, are there key trends or innovations that you'll see that will be influencing your development and your business for the future?
Yeah, sort of two sides of the same coin, one negative, one positive. The negative is land costs a lot of money, and that cost keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But the flip side of it is it makes people recognize its value more and more, especially its value as green space. And there, I believe, have been some questions about whether the pandemic helped or hurt. And in an odd way, it helped us because people began to understand that if you don't have an outlet to be out in nature, that's a really tough thing. We had one of our trails had a 2,000% year-on-year increase in usage. And so the recognition of value is very high, even as the cost of land goes up and up. And so playing both sides of that and balancing that out is one of our big challenges, but also a way in which we can be most helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a reminder to our audience, you can send in your questions to Learning Society at Queens.edu. And the team behind the scenes working with me, they'll be forwarding those over to me. Actually, I do have one now. And it's a question for all of you. Is there a change or adaptation that you had to make due to the COVID restrictions that you can see now as positive? Anyone?
Absolutely. I would say so. One of the things that we did was learn to really maximize our use of technology, just like we're doing right now. And so we were able to start this series on YouTube that's called Avian Adventures. And once again, that's a way of saying right now you can't come to our birds, you can't come see the raptors, but we can bring the raptors to you. It started out just with our staff that works with the birds going on Facebook Live every day and just showing what was going on there with them. And that grew into Avian Adventures, and that's something that we're going to keep up. It's all a part of what we're now calling the new normal, right? We're all going to have to learn how to use that technology to bring what we used to expect people to come to us. We now have to be able to have people come to us and make it inviting and engaging, but we also have to be able to go to them through technology.
I would echo that. We've started putting a lot of photos and videos and stories on the web that formerly we had waited to put into paper newsletters and things of that sort. So now we have a much more constant feed of information to the community.
Very good. Chris, any adaptations at Park and Rec?
Certainly, the use of technology has been, I guess I'm considered an old school guy now at this point in my career. I've never thought that the adaptation of utilizing, technology. Our staff are so creative. Our folks are so creative. And typically prior to the pandemic, everything that we did, most of the stuff that we did was either, here on the property. Our staff have learned to use this technology so quickly to try and get programming out. Now, obviously, at the beginning of the pandemic, where no one knew and none of us understood what was about to happen to us, from our safety. But once we start to understand, social distancing, mask wearing, they adapted really quickly to bring programming into people's homes who might not otherwise be able to experience it.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. I want to jump to Lisa and share with us a little bit about emerging trends and future transportation. I worked for the Department of Transportation for about 4 years. And one of the things that's coming about are electric cars, autonomous vehicles, and how are they going to shape how developments are designed?
That is a great question. Autonomous vehicles, that is a tough one. I know early discussions around the disruption that we were going to see in the real estate development world as a result of the introduction of autonomous vehicles. I feel like that discussion has slowed a little bit. We were talking early on about how parking decks were going to need to be developed in a manner that they could be easily adapted into a different type of product. And we were going to need that we'd potentially eliminate parking because autonomous vehicles would negate the use of parking lots. And also, on the other hand, were we going to be developing more suburbs because people were going to be able to have the opportunity to be productive during their commute? We haven't really seen much advancement on the autonomous vehicle side. It's not really a discussion that we're focusing on heavily right now. I think electric vehicles is really what we're looking at in terms of how we're adapting our real estate for the future. I mean, I couldn't help but notice that every car commercial during the Super Bowl was for an electric vehicle, which was pretty amazing in my perspective. I think that's where real estate decision making is happening. We have to determine what the right number of charging stations is for each community. Right now, we have to think about what's happening right now, but what the next 10 years is going to bring. So, of course, real estate development, we're always focusing on transitory and to development opportunities. Transit's really going to be the way we can solve some of these problems. Also, I think parking is something that we're always addressing as well. We develop our communities so that rideshare can be easy for them. And I think that's one way that we can address that autonomous vehicle need in the future. But with parking counts, we've been getting more aggressive on eliminating parking, reducing the number of parking, but it's really difficult because there are minimum requirements that we still have to meet. So, I mean, there are a whole lot of considerations in terms of modifications and transitions around transportation that we're addressing. Again, autonomous, maybe not the first thing that comes to mind, but electric vehicles is definitely top of mind and part of the discussion every day.
I got you. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to jump to a question or two that I'm getting from our audience, and it says, forgive me, in the next 5 years, what is an additional resource, program, or offering that you hope to add or are currently planning to add? And I'll open that to everyone on the floor.
Ours is pretty basic. We want to preserve a lot more land and build a lot more trails. Our strategic plan for the trail side is about 200 more miles in the next 5 years. And land acquisition is a little less predictable, but we hope to add a couple thousand more acres to the 17,000 acres we already have under conservation.
Gotcha.
I would say the same. We're embarking on a campaign so that we can build out our trail. And so the idea is to constantly continue to add birds, bring on birds of prey, more of them from around the world, which is what we have started to do. So it is to continue to grow and to continue to find ways to provide access for everyone to be able to see them.
Well, in Park and Recreation, we, obviously over the last, 2 years, we've gone through so much in regards to the pandemic and with social justice. We're committed to making sure that any and everything that we do, there's equity for all of our citizens and residents of this county. So we're going to continue to follow our plan, our master plan, but we're going to also make sure that no one's feeling left out. No community feels like, well, you put best parks on this side of town versus our side of town. Equity is a huge push for us at this point.
And I used to hear that quite often about that division of equity and what's on the west side or south side of Charlotte. So thank you for those efforts. Looking at another question, how are your organizations working collaboratively with other nonprofits, corporations, and community organizations?
Well, I'll jump in and say, obviously partnership is huge for us. Working with folks at the Raptor Center, just as an example, organizations like that have the expertise to do what they do, right? So, if I had to go out and be responsible for rehabilitating a bird, we're not going to do too good. But we go out and find partners like the folks at the Raptor Center to come in and be their true experts, best in the world. So we are always looking to partner with like-minded organizations that align with our mission, vision, and values. So we're always looking for people that are going to come in and do great things for the citizens of Mecklenburg County.
And Sherry, do you guys do collaborative work with the schools or other nonprofits?
Absolutely. We do collaborative work with the schools. Of course, COVID affected that. Schools, a lot of work with homeschools, a lot of programs for families that are homeschooling their children. And we work with other nonprofits. The program that we're going to do about Harriet Tubman, we're going to bring in Catawba Riverkeeper to talk about how waterways played in with that. Shield Museum to talk about how she used the stars. So yes, it's absolutely all of us working together. And to piggyback on what Chris was saying about access, there was an article in USA Today today, and the headline was "More Americans than ever enjoy outdoor health benefits, but racial inequities persist." And so I think that's going to be the biggest thing for all of us, Al, as we're looking at this. The DEI we have, but then there's the new A and the B, access and belonging. And so that is really what we are working on right now, is making sure that there is equity and access, and that once you have that access, you feel like you belong. And so that is something that we have a long way, we have a long way to go, period, on that as a country. But we are, as you can see here today, really working on it and working collaboratively on it in Mecklenburg County.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Let me see what other questions we might have here as well.
Al, excuse me,
yes. Sure.
The partnership piece?
Absolutely.
We have 7 counties in which we operate preserving land and 15 in which we build trails. And there's 88 municipalities in those counties that we work with very directly. We also have wonderful partners in our donors and volunteers, but also, as Lisa noted, frequently developers are partners as well. And last but not least, much of what we do is to try to retain the natural heritage of this area. And that includes not only the land, but the historical features of it as well. And we're currently working on 2 parcels that have historic homes. And one of them is the last standing home is really a fairly strong word for this because there isn't a lot to it, but place where enslaved persons lived. And so there's a good bit of what we do that ends up being history and heritage in addition to maintaining green space.
Very good. Chris, what is something about the parks that people may not know?
Wow, I don't know how much time you're going to give me, but I feel like there are folks in our community who, like I said earlier, they focus. If you got young kids, you want them in sports, or if you're a naturalist, you're outside. There are so many things that we have to offer, Let me give you this real quick. We operate over 230 facilities. We've got, more than 55 miles of paved greenway trails available for folks to use. 22,000 acres. Mecklenburg County is a 546 square miles that equates out to about 350,000 acres. We control about 6% of the land in Mecklenburg County, park and recreation. For those of you who have not done so, I would encourage you to please visit our website. Very easy, www.parkandrec.com, and learn about all the things we have. Obviously, from aquatics perspective, athletics, senior activities, playgrounds, spray grounds, pools, you name it. What don't we have in the county? It's a wonderful job, and it's a wonderful place to live, work, and recreate.
Okay. And pricing. If I wanted to bring my family out to the Eastway Regional, I'm just curious. I'm always looking for something to do on the weekend.
So I can't give you specific pricing on things because obviously it's tiered based on what you want to do. There are memberships, sure. But I can guarantee you will not find a more affordable place to take your family. Everything from fitness classes. They've got one of the coolest things in that facility is for teens, in my opinion, for teens where, kids love music and everybody wants to be the next star. They've got a recording studio where teenagers can go through a program and show what you have, and they can actually record a record right there in the rec center, through the program. So I think everyone needs to take a visit, no matter where you live in Mecklenburg County. I know if you're living in South Charlotte, it might not be a place you might go every day, but I think you need to see it because I think the ultimate goal for the county is to have one of these facilities in every sector of the county.
So let me make sure I'm clear. There's a recording studio there that I could go and I could do one of my songs. And
I guess the young folks say bars, Al. You got to have bars in order to go.
Okay. That's all right. Let's see what else we have here. Our audience are sending us some wonderful questions. How about this one? It says, what is the biggest threat your organization is facing, and what can individuals do to support your mission? I like that. Was very good. Thank you for my audience. And then I'll open up that to everyone, please.
Well, I would say just as the cost of land is going up, for us in the grocery store, personally, the cost of food is going up, and the same is happening for us with our raptors. It takes a lot of mice and a lot of quail and a lot of other things to feed these big birds. And so I would say that that's it. And so, of course, always donations are one way that you can help, and just coming out to the trail. But I would say just the cost of the rehabilitation and the care for our birds.
And for us, it's the pace of urbanization. We certainly expect things to develop and hope they will. We want economic development in our area, but the pace is such that it's hard for us to respond rapidly enough to be able to preserve properties that are under pressure from development.
Mm-hmm. Lisa, how do you respond to that?
As the for-profit business on the call, is a little bit. It's somewhat relevant. Really, it's related, right? I think that when Bart speaks to development affecting his organization, of course, land prices going up are affecting that too, right? And of course, that affects us as well. But for us, I think the biggest threat is just, again, rising prices of commodities, lumber, steel, and concrete. It's hard to build a building when prices double, right? But I think that I guess you can support us by leasing some space in a Crescent facility.
So, Chris, I'm actually going to put you on the spot here for a little bit. It had to be last year, and I think there was some ranking or something about parks and those types of things across the nation, and Mecklenburg County did not do so well. And I totally disagreed with it because I've lived in other cities and other states, and no place has measured up to what I've seen here in Mecklenburg County. Can you speak to a little bit about that and how that really kind of played out?
I'm going to actually merge your last question with the question you just asked me.
Okay.
What can you do to support park and recreation?
Sure.
Utilize your parks. Utilize your park system. Get out in your community and use your parks. everybody loves Freedom Park. Everybody loves Romare Bearden Park, but there are some wonderful neighborhood parks right in your community that we really want you to go out and use. We want to hear from you. We want to hear, hey, this picnic bench is broken. Hey, this swing needs to be adjusted. So we really want people to utilize the park system. Now, you asked me about the ranking system. Obviously, I think TPL is the organization that did the study that you're talking about. To put it simply, you're not always comparing apples to apples with these studies. Remember, I said Mecklenburg County is a county park and recreation agency. Across the country, most of the people who do well, the groups that do well in that study, are city. They're smaller geographically, so therefore they get better credit for how many parks they have in a geographical area versus Mecklenburg County. We don't get any credit for the Matthews Park and Recreation Department, Cornelius, Huntersville, Town of Mint Hill, or Matthews. We don't get credit for the facilities that are in those locations. So it makes it, our system is spread out so far because, geographically it's just what we are. So it makes it look like, we are, doing well. So again, I would urge people versus, you read a study, sure, it is what it is, but get out and visit your park system and you tell us what you think.
Great. Thank you for that answer. When I saw that, you can't talk badly about my city and my parks, so thank you. So we have another question here, and I think this is probably maybe a little bit more personal. It says, maybe most of you have been living in Charlotte for about 10 years, and many of you are raising families as well. What is it about Charlotte that keeps you here? And for those who have not lived here for a shorter time, what is it about Charlotte that kind of drew you here? And I'm sure we probably put this in the context of your particular resource. Bart, you look like you really want to answer that one. I'm going to call you out, sir.
I've been here 35 years, and I moved here for a job. And I thought it was a nice place to live, but I moved here for a job. And I stayed because it was a great place to live. And one of the reasons that I do what I do is I want it to remain a great place to live. I had the good fortune of growing up in a small town where my parents said, go outside and play and don't come back until dinner time. And they could do that without any concerns for my safety or my health. And actually, it was improving my health. And Charlotte's now large enough, it's very hard for parents to be able to do that. And one of my hopes, if Catawba Lands Conservancy and Carolina Thread Trail are successful organizations, is that once again, parents can say, go outside and play, and their kids will have beautiful natural spaces and trails to play in and no concerns for their safety.
Well, I guess like Bart, I'm a long timer. I've been here for 33 years. And so being able to watch the growth, watch all the things that have happened in Charlotte and to be able to be a part of it is what has kept me here. And I think what keeps me hopeful and doing what I'm doing is as we are tackling all of these problems and some of the challenges that we said we've had, Charlotte has proved itself to be a community that sees a challenge, we tackle that challenge and we conquer it. So I'm very excited about the future and all of the things that we're doing together.
I can answer from a shorter term perspective. I've been here for, I believe, 17 years. So that's, I guess, not as long as Jerry and Bart, but certainly a lot longer than probably 40% of the folks who are even being employed here at Crescent Communities. I would say what brought me here originally was the great opportunities for a young professional to build a career. But what's kept me here is access to, really great opportunities to get outdoors, get outside and hike all the trails that we have here in Charlotte. It's easy to get to the mountains, of course. But I also find that the size of Charlotte, and it's really easy to get involved here. It's easy to find a cause that you are passionate about and actually make an impact. Like the size, energy, and the personality of Charlotte really makes it easy to find a niche and really make a contribution. And I've found that over time. And that's one of the reasons I'm involved really with the Catawba Lands Conservancy too. So that's, I think, a great benefit of Charlotte.
Good deal. Thank you. Thank you. We have a question here, and I believe this is maybe directed to Chris. So are you ready, sir? Uh, it says, I've heard rumors of a giant urban park to be built on the land in the old railroad station off of North Tryon. Can you speak to this?
Unfortunately, I cannot. I'm not familiar
I was
with
going to
it.
put you on the spot, sir. So there you go.
So if I hear something, I don't know if we have the ability to post somewhere after this is over. I'll be glad to do that, but I'm just not familiar with the project.
I understand. I just want to get into all of our audience's questions here. We have another question, and maybe this is where I can respond as well. It says, please talk some more about access. We have neighborhoods that have little access to essentials like grocery stores, let alone parks and trails. What is being done to assist with access to these facilities? And I would probably respond to this. We have some very engaged city council persons and county commissioners. Please spend some time and talk with them about the needs of your community and how that process works. I will even say in my own District 2 community, we try very diligently to bring a grocery store to the 5 Points area, and we visited major grocery stores across the country, and it all had to do with rooftops and their own business decisions around those. But we didn't give up hope, and we continue to advocate for that. So I definitely say reach out to your elected officials and work with them on trying to get those amenities in your community that you want. Or open up your own. How about that? There we go. Are there other questions from the panel that you want to bring forth? Sherry, you have worked very diligently to make sure that there is diversity on your board. What can other organizations do to be more active in that regard?
I think it's just realizing that it is the way of the future. It is a need. We really have to be intentional about it and understand that this whole issue of environmental stewardship, environmental justice, environmental racism, as you're looking in this in this arena, it has traditionally not been as inclusive as it could have been or should have been. And so I think now there is a real recognition right now that this particular issue needs a diversity of voices, needs to make sure that people are included, and once again needs to make sure that once you have that access, you feel like you belong. There is programming that engages you. There's programming that relates to you. And so those are the things that I think that we can do. And as usual, part of that is making sure that your board and your staffs are diverse. And if nothing else, that there is a commitment to that diversity and the benefits that diversity brings.
Now, I know one of the things that maybe was a little controversial happened some time ago with Juneteenth, and you guys addressed that. Can you speak to that just a little bit so that those in our community understand kind of that? And Chris, you might be able to chime in a little bit as well.
Sure. We worked, collaboratively with our partners at Park and Rec, because Park and Rec and historic Latta Plantation are all there on that land at Latta Nature Preserve, along with the Raptor Center. And we saw this as an opportunity to be able to say, I think we put up the sign, everyone is welcome here. It was the opportunity to be able to let the community know about our commitment and to address it in a way that was not disparaging to any other organization or any other person, but was pretty much staking our claim or laying down the gauntlet that we are an organization that is committed to diversity, inclusion, equity, access, and belonging.
Gotcha. And now the name is Latta Preserve, correct? It's no longer
Latta Nature Preserve, yes. Mm-hmm.
Very good. All right. Let me ask you a question. And this is for everyone, how can residents support your efforts and or better take advantage of what you offer? And this is for everyone.
I'll jump back in, Al, and just say, obviously, I said it earlier, utilize your park. From I think we get a lot of people when they see a festival that happens at Freedom Park, or they see a festival happen at Romere, they think that's the kind of activity that needs to happen at every park all the time. I'm from a small town south of Charlotte. I gotta say, man, if I grew up around some of the parks that we have, I don't know that I'd be sitting here talking on this panel tonight. I think I would have retired from one of the professional sports organizations and been living on a beach somewhere, because there's such jewels. Open space. We played football in briar patches where I'm from, and because we just, that's what we had. We didn't have parks where I live. I just encourage people to get out and see what they have in their community. And it doesn't always have to be big and shiny and have flashers on it in order for it to be great.
Great. Thank you. Bart?
I agree with Chris. It's visit. It's go, come. The first time I went and I saw a raptor and I saw these birds and how beautiful they were, I was hooked. And it got me on the journey that I'm on now, where I've started hiking the trails at the nature preserve. Like I said, back in May, I actually paddleboarded. So all these things that opened up to me just because I became involved with the Raptor Center.
Al, I'd say this is about placemaking, and the way you make your place is to participate in land planning decisions that are made at the local level. That every municipality has to make multiple land decisions every year, and it has everything to do with how your area builds out, has parks, has green space, has trails, has wonderful spots where people want to convene, as opposed to being separated out by roads and by highways and parking lots. So that local land planning is the biggest thing that affects everything that all of us do, and literally affects our environment in the sense of it's where we live, it's how we interact.
I will speak to this not so much from the Crescent community's perspective, but just from environmental sustainability and community building. I definitely echo what the other panelists have shared. Really, it's my hope that the actions that we take, our intention, inspires other businesses and other partners to do something, to not always take the easy path, to think about the impact of the decisions and the actions that they're having, to be intentional. I encourage everyone to educate themselves on the impacts of their actions and use your vote to support your beliefs.
Now, if I could jump in and say one more thing, I think my director would be upset with me if I didn't get this in.
I want that to happen.
I've said use your parks. We'd also like folks to volunteer. Volunteer in our parks. Make sure that you understand what you have out there. We have advisory councils. We have the Park and Recreation Commission, which is an all volunteer board of people who volunteer their time to help us build our system. So I would encourage folks to volunteer. Learn about bond packages when you see them come around every so often. Learn about them. Learn about what we're asking you to help us support and build, versus just hit no because you're just getting more tax money from us. Learn about the projects and help support us that way.
That's some very good advice. Investigate, understand, and get informed before you vote, right? Yeah. So any closing remarks, guys? We've got a few minutes left, and I'll be turning it back over to Jennifer. Just closing remarks. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for answering all the questions from the audience and from me. I know we've kind of gone on many different directions, but I wanted to get into everybody's perspective. So closing remarks, and I'm going to just start with Chris and then keep going.
Well, again, thank you. I want to say thank you guys for inviting me to this. I got to say, when I got this invitation, I was as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocks.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one.
But the format is really great. I would welcome the opportunity for someone from our department to do this again with you, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Bart?
I would say, again, it's about placemaking. Where do you want to live? Do you want to live in a beautiful spot with lots of green space and lots of recreational opportunities and healthy people, or someplace that's pretty heavily full of spots that aren't so pretty and are not as conducive to activity? So it's about making your place.
Lisa, final words.
Sure. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to join these esteemed panelists for the discussion. Thanks so much for inviting the non-traditional voice to the table from the developer community. But I'm just honored to have the opportunity to work with these organizations to support the placemaking that Bart mentioned. I look forward to working with you all to develop the River District. Thank you.
And Sherry.
You're supposed to be my friend, Alan, so you make me laugh. So thank you very much. Again, thank you. This has been a wonderful opportunity to serve with this panel. I'm glad I could step in for the Raptor Center. And I think I would have to say it's the same thing. We are working hard as organizations to make place, to do the placemaking. We need you to utilize it, and we need you to be intentional about it and to make sure, help us work together to make sure that everyone has the access to be able to use it.
Thank all of you so much for your time this evening. It has been my honor to be a moderator for this. Hopefully we have educated our community about all the great resources that we have. And please take this wonderful weekend. I think it's supposed to be really nice to go out and visit many of the trails and the park and just all of it, and have an opportunity. And also drive out to River District. You're going to be amazed how that's going to be unfolding and part of our community. So at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Jennifer, and thank you so much for your time. I'm Al Austin.
Thank you so much, Al. And really, just in closing, I again want to express our appreciation for being such a fantastic moderator. Thank you to all of our panelists. I think we heard our marching orders loud and clear. Get out, get involved, use your voice in our community so we continue to have such great resources helping the future of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg County region. Thank you again to all of our audience for being a part of tonight and your engagement and your great questions that made this a dynamic discussion. So lastly, just on behalf of the Learning Society, thank you to everyone for being here. We hope to see you on April 20th for the evening with Mark Hyman and Carla Hall. And then have a wonderful evening and good night.